life of my dad, Harry Morgan. I'd also like to thank you all for your support throughout this last year, whether it was bringing over meals, providing groceries, sending cards, or just sending a quick text or phone call checking in. All of you constantly reached out, not only on how he was doing, but also how we were all doing as a family. I speak for all of us when I say this. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The outpouring of love we have received and continue to receive is truly appreciated and something we won't forget. He fought extremely hard throughout last year in order to give us all as much time as he could together. He never gave up. He never refused the treatment. Even when we would have understood calling it quits during some rough months, he never did. He fought until the very end. We all knew and loved him in many different ways. To some of you, he was a co-worker. Maybe you met him back in his Bob Ross sales days, going around South Florida to different kitchens and businesses to provide samples, make deals on what could soon be coming to their menus. Maybe it was during countless food shows across the state and country, spending days setting up and tearing down different booths, showcasing different lines, networking with others in the food industry. Or maybe you met him at Key Impact, where he became market director, where he would spend the rest of his career. No matter when or how you got to know him, I'm sure you quickly became aware of his fun, outgoing personality, and wild sense of humor. He would often talk about his work, sharing different places he'd been, chefs he'd met with, resorts and restaurants he'd been to, or letting us know whenever we came across somewhere that was a client of his or that he called on. He loved what he did, not only because of his love for food and cooking, but mostly because of the people and the relationships that he would build with them. That was always something very important to him. He would bring up his team of coworkers often, and we'd always hear stories of how he would incorporate another love of his, music, into his monthly meetings. I'm sure some of you here today can elaborate more on that than I can, but I know he always got a kick out of it. He would talk about how important it was to be a mentor, to try and listen and help anybody he could at work, whether that be professionally or personally, and that he hoped he made a difference in people's lives, positively affected others in his company. And from some of the things we heard, it seems he did just that. I've been able to get to know some of you, and others have worked with him so long you've seen all of us kids grow up. Many became much more than co-workers and turned into lifelong friendships. He cherished the relationships he had with you all, and he cared for you all. Others knew him as a friend and a neighbor. You've no doubt heard music blasting in the backyard, whether it was something you wanted to hear or not. Screaming at the TV on football weekends, or maybe screaming at some inanimate object until you figure out how to put together. It must have been missing parts, but the directions were wrong. You knew someone that loved to laugh, be loud, enjoy good food, and having cold beers and cigars with friends. He could hit you with the "that's what she said" joke at any moment. And he loved spending his free time just taking it easy, enjoying himself and the company around him. As a kid, I got to witness years and years of softball Fridays, where him and his friends mostly got together to drink beer and talk shit. It just so happened to take place in a softball field, with the after party taking place at the Brian Piccolo parking lot. Sometimes being asked to leave by the park ranger who was locking up and closing for the night. And then, according to my mom, would often carry over for an after party at one of the neighbors' houses until early in the morning. Close friends and neighbors quickly turned into family. Many weekends and holidays were spent together. He loved playing and coaching sports and hanging out with everyone in the neighborhood. We have a lot of memories of parents and kids playing street roller hockey, home run derby, pickup basketball, and football games. He coached Little League basketball rec teams with Mike, where my mom likes to share how much he loved to do that and how passionate he was, because it wasn't uncommon for him to tear up and get emotional giving a postseason speech to a team full of 8-year-olds. He came up just short. It was very clear how much he cared for and loved his friends, and how much he enjoyed getting together with you all. Bike rides to the Keys as part of the MS tour. Weekends at the Friends' lake houses. The no-names. Rounds of golf, tailgating, football games, vacations, camping trips, or just hanging out by the pool and hanging out at the neighborhood parties. You all got to see a side of him that I'm sure was filled with laughs and crazy moments. I'm sure I'll hear more stories from you guys about the times you shared together and all the things I'm sure I don't know or haven't heard before. But what I do know is how he laughed with you all and loved you all. To our family, he was Dad. And out of all the things he was, I feel confident in saying that's what he was best at. He met my mom when they were just teenagers, and within a couple of years, they were married. She was 19, and he was 22. Just kids that fell in love, and little did they know, would go on to build a family and spend 42 years of marriage together. My mom would tell you how they always loved to dance, even competing and winning different dance competitions at local bars and clubs when they first met. If only social media was around back then. I would have loved to see some of the Saturday Night Fever. They never stopped their love of dancing, and I remember as a kid and teenager, on many different occasions, seeing the both of them slow dance in our family room. Probably to the Commodores blasted on the stereo after a day by the pool. Even up until this last year, it wasn't unusual to watch them start dancing in the backyard if the right song came on. Yep, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you need 40?
We're on a lifetime of good times, hard times, and everything in between. It was very obvious the love they had for each other and the foundation they had as husband and wife. He was a father of 3. The oldest, my sister Kim, then my brother Mitch, and myself, his youngest son. I'm not sure you could have hand-built a better dad than the one he was to us. He was the kind of dad who was always there, one who loved being crazy with us as kids, playing games with us, chasing us around with ice water-filled super soakers in the backyard, always making sure birthdays and holidays were full of excitement and fun. But most importantly, love, and always letting us know that we were loved. He was involved in all of our hobbies and anything we were passionate about. He was at every sporting event and game. Involved with coaching, after-school activities that we did. And thanks to my sister, I'm willing to bet he holds a world record for most musicals attended by any straight man. And that's true. Please definitely don't tell that. He was a mentor and somebody we could go to when we needed advice, help with anything, or just a good laugh. Dad always loved animals, and when him and my mom became empty nesters, they decided to go to Zoo Miami one year on Christmas Eve. I remember them telling me how much fun they had and how I'll have to join them next time. And I remember thinking, the zoo? On Christmas Eve? It's kind of strange, but yeah, I'll go with you guys. After the first few hours of that first trip with them, I quickly learned that they start serving beer at 10 a.m. And that their way of doing the zoo was to grab beers at every station, walk through and see the animals and the exhibits of Zoo Miami. I never missed another year from that point on. A Morgan family tradition was born. It truly was one of his favorite days of the year. We had so much fun as a family every time we went. We looked forward to it every holiday season. He also loved football, especially the Georgia Bulldogs. And not only did he pass that love of football along to me, but I must have gotten some of his stubborn side, because as soon as I was old enough to know the game and become a fan, I wanted to watch the Gators. So as I grew up, Saturdays were always fun at our house. We loved to watch all the different college games from around the country, always with a close eye on Georgia, Florida, and the rest of the SEC. About 10 to 11 years ago, we started making bets on the yearly Florida-Georgia game. We would always watch it together. Whoever team lost, they would have to buy the next round of golf. For those of you that know college football like we do, then you already know. I paid for a lot of fucking golf. We would scream and laugh and talk trash to each other. But the one thing we both agreed on, and tell you, is that those were perfect days. Days that will stay with me forever. I'm almost done, I swear. As an adult, I realized more and more how fortunate I was to have a dad like him. I like to say he showed us the blueprint on how to approach life, to treat people with kindness and be good. To enjoy the simple things. Lazy days by the pool, a good meal, a cold beer. And if you have a roof over your head and are surrounded by people you love, then that's enough. As you look at the different pictures on the boards here today, you will see different moments and memories throughout his life. Days filled with friends and family, doing things he loved, and enjoying his life to the fullest. His legacy will live on through all of us who loved him, and we can never forget the impact he had on our lives. As sad and heartbroken as we are, there is a quote that I heard that stuck with me. How lucky I am to have had something that hurts so much to lose. And above everything, that is what I have to remind myself of. Days when we're hurting or sad, to try and remember just how lucky we were to have somebody like him in our lives for as long as we had him. So cheers to Harry, a man who was one hell of a co-worker, a friend, a neighbor, a husband, and a dad, to a life well lived. Thank you guys.